Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the CyberHub Network. I'm delighted today to introduce Hervé Le Jouan, CEO and founder of Filter.ai. Welcome, Hervé.
Hello, Girek.
So nice to have you on board. So today my topic is related to what we could call LLM poisoning, or how the different sources can be manipulated to influence LLM. We have seen example in the recent news flow about portal combat, but also geopolitical events also may influence that. Can you just elaborate on that context?
Yeah, so basically you're right. That means today the one thing that we all need to understand is that LLM, large language models, are built based on data, a lot of data, and mostly and surely the data coming from the internet and all the publishing on the internet. And of course, if you want to manipulate the training of those data, the way to do it is to publish tons and tons and thousands of data, which are basically misinformation, but are going to be digested and used for the training of the model. And then the consequence is really that when someone is asking a question, this particular information will pop up first because it will have been the one trained and used by the model to train. So now you can use that for geopolitical context, for, let's say, manipulating opinions, global opinions, onto what's going on in a certain area of the world. We can think about the Russian and Ukraine war, or some elections in certain countries, or the most recent Israel and Iran case. So basically all of that, you can push a lot of content so that it becomes a manipulation, misinformation of the crowd.
So that's a bit scary. How would the enterprise and the organization react to that? Because they have their own model internally. And of course, they don't want to have misinformation or impact on their reputation. What would be the next step for the organization? I think they should take care of it.
Absolutely, so because the organization, what usually they do is that they use some of those, let's say, APIs from those big large language models, such as ChatGPT API, Claude API from Anthropic, or Mistral API, and they're going to use it, and then they're going to add their own data, like their contract, their data coming from their database, to basically specifically address their need. But of course, that means they still use the generic API of those LLMs, and therefore any employee or clients could maybe ask questions that could be putting the company in certain problem of reputation, because you can have examples of someone who wants to do damage to companies. He could, again, even big organization or big, let's say, political, could push some highly content misinformation on a certain company that would ban the out from the results on the LLM if a question is asked by an employee or a client. And it can touch anything around, did you build some stuff using children, or were you involved into building weapons for specific war? And then if you manipulate that and you push that information so that the LLM is trained based on that, if a question is asked, that can get out and put the reputation of the company at risk.
That's really something that they need to take care of. So they need to train their employee, but basically what you tell us is we need to always validate the information. We need to validate the source. That's the citizen who have to double check the content.
Yeah, and actually, recently, because this started to be an issue, the LLM started to put the source in linked to their response to say, oh, it's coming from there. But then it's exactly what you're saying. That means you need, as a whatever citizen or employee of a company or consumers of something, it's new to validate the content and to go and check that this source is good or not good. So this starts to be a very complicated world. And are we ready to do that? Are we ready? Have we been educated to do that? And certainly the young people, to have this kind of distance between the response and say, okay, before acknowledging the truth of what I am given back by the LLM, should I think about it and should I check? Verify the answer. This is a huge change into the way we are approaching information.
So this is critical thinking from the citizens, really. So it's
critical thinking. Yes, it's critical thinking for the citizen. It's critical thinking for the government, for the education system, And it's critical thinking, as we were saying before, for the organization, for their employees and partners to be trained on to how do they use those new, let's say, fantastic, and because it brings a lot of value, these new large language models and generative AI, but they need to be very careful and put guardrails in terms of how to use it and not being trapped into something that could really damage their reputation and have an impact onto the entire society and onto a government or citizens.
So I see that the youth are really the one that needs to be trained for the future. They are the leaders of tomorrow. I also have heard that China has already put mandatory the training of AI in school from 6 years old. Is it too late also for our Western governments, Europe or Western countries? Should the government and the European Commission do something?
Oh, yes, they should. I tell you, I remember, battling in the past for the kind of, even in the school, bringing the social network in the education pattern to help the young to understand what they have to take or not take from the social networks. They didn't do anything. And now we have, again, another level with generative AI. And we will absolutely need to have in the education from the youngest age, maybe 5 or 6, or start to put that in mind and to train those students and to educate them on to how to use it, how they can benefit from it, but as well how they need to be very careful about it in terms of, again, taking the truth or not, because it's going to be, a lot of young people today are taking that for, oh, this is the truth. No, they need to be educated that this is maybe not the truth. This may be the truth, but this may be not the truth. And so, yes, governments, European Commission, we should really step in, because the Chinese, I think on that side, they're right. We need to train and educate our children as soon as possible on those new tools, because it's going to change our life forever.
This is clearly going to change our life. That's what we see every day. Thank you, Hervé, for your insightful information and time to act for the leaders. Thank you, Hervé.
Thank you, Giric. Bye-bye.